You've probably seen them, that couple who seem to have it all figured out. Years together, a kid. They even survived reality TV chaos. And somehow they looked, well, picture perfect doing it.
Totally. From the outside, it really felt like a solid, lasting thing, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah.
And when you look at that public image, especially in the Teen Mom universe where their whole story played out,
Yeah.
it was powerful.
Absolutely. We've been looking at sources, and they describe them as looking like the perfect couple, for years, right there on camera.
All those happy photos, the playful videos.
Yeah, you got the sense they were really building something, a future, a family. That was definitely the narrative out there.
And that narrative, that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We've gathered a whole stack of sources about Cory Wharton and Taylor Selfridge's relationship because, well, while the public saw one thing,
the materials we've seen suggest something much more complex was happening, behind the scenes.
Exactly. So our mission here is to kind of unpack what these sources are revealing about the real story.
Yeah.
How their relationship unraveled.
Right, because it wasn't sudden. We're digging into info that points to, like, a 5-year-old secret,
Wow.
public arguments, and what one source even calls a silent war over commitment.
Okay. Yeah, what we found digging into all this, it might genuinely shift how you see what happened. It wasn't just like one single issue that blew things up. It was more, as the sources put it, a slow unraveling.
A slow unraveling of something that looked so strong.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so setting the scene is pretty crucial here. They meet on reality TV. They become this significant couple in that whole world.
Right.
And for what felt like, 8 years, the public saw this image of stability. But the sources we looked at, they immediately show a contrast.
How so?
Suggesting that, behind closed doors, something dark was festering.
Ooh, okay. Let's unpack that. What was this dark thing festering? The sources are pretty direct, aren't they?
They are. They point straight to this major hidden issue. It says, years into their relationship, a truth came out, one that had been hidden for half a decade.
Half a decade? What was it?
Cory admitted he'd cheated 5 years earlier.
5 years. Wow. Okay, that's a long time for a secret like that.
A really substantial amount of time. And yeah, this admission, it definitely stunned the fans who were following them so closely.
I bet. And for Taylor, the materials really emphasize how personal this must have been.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it, right? She'd stayed with him through ups and downs. They built a family.
She believed in that future.
Exactly. She believed they were building something solid. So to find out about this betrayal after all that time and, emotional investment, it's presented in the sources as just incredibly difficult to process. The materials really highlight that trust, once shattered, rarely fits back together the same way.
So this wasn't just, okay, mistake made, let's move on.
Not at all. It's framed more as, the catalyst, the thing that started these deeper, long-term issues bubbling up to the surface. Not the end of the problem, but maybe the beginning of the end.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because the cheating thing, that wasn't even the end of their challenges, was it?
No, it seems like it was just one layer. The sources describe another growing tension point, this battle over commitment.
Okay.
Yeah, so even after dealing with the fallout from the cheating, the sources show Taylor's starting to want more, specifically marriage, a solid commitment.
And the picture painted is that Cory maybe wasn't feeling the same urgency.
That's what it sounds like. The material suggests he was delaying the next step, kind of putting it off year after year.
That dynamic, especially after trust was already shaky. That sounds tough.
Yeah, it created significant strain. We learned that Taylor, feeling sort of stuck waiting.
Waiting for a ring, basically.
Pretty much. She started questioning everything. And crucially, the sources describe her feeling alone in the relationship.
Even while they were still together.
Right. That feeling of being on totally different timelines for their future, plus that unresolved history, it just became this major, major factor.
And all this internal tension, it didn't stay completely private, did it?
No, not entirely. As things got more strained, the sources point to these public clues and, of course, fan speculation starting to pop up online.
Right, because people watch them so closely.
Exactly. For fans who'd watched them for ages, even subtle shifts became noticeable. What we saw mentioned in the materials were things like cryptic Instagram posts, unfollows,
Oh, yeah.
and just silence. Silence where there used to be constant sharing about their life together.
You give examples. What did the sources mention specifically?
Yeah, they pointed out things like they stopped tagging each other in posts.
The classic sign.
Right. No joint holiday photos, apparently. The regular family updates just kind of faded away.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How in this social media age, the lack of content speaks louder sometimes.
It really does. When that constant stream of couple pics and family stuff just stopped, the internet noticed. Big time.
So the sources say speculation exploded.
Exploded. Yeah. Fans were trying to piece it all together from these little public breadcrumbs.
But even with all this, the past cheating, the commitment disagreements, the public noticing things, the sources indicate they kept trying, right? They didn't just give up immediately.
No, they did keep trying. The materials definitely suggest efforts were made to hold things together, but there's this kind of poignant observation in there.
With that?
That love isn't always enough.
Oof.
You know? Taylor had already made that really hard choice to stay after the cheating.
And she was still waiting for that ring that didn't seem to be coming.
Exactly. And eventually the sources note just something inside her gave up. It really highlights that idea, you know, that a person can only hold on so long when they consistently feel alone or like they're not being heard in the relationship.
So this brings us to how it actually ended. Did they have different stories about the breakup itself?
It seems like slightly different perspectives, yeah. Cory did eventually address the breakup publicly. The sources capture his side.
And what did he say?
He acknowledged the cheating, acknowledged the different views on marriage, the public tension. He admitted those were real factors.
But he didn't pinpoint one big fight.
No, he described it more as a slow drift they couldn't stop, like not one specific blowout, just gradually moving apart.
Okay. And Taylor's perspective, what did the sources say about her truth?
Well, it's framed as her own truth. From her side, as presented in the materials, she felt she'd really tried, forgiven, and hoped things would change or work out. But the ultimate takeaway seemed to be that even the strongest loyalty can break under years of unspoken pain.
Wow. That really underscores the cumulative effect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't just one thing.
No. It was the weight of everything over time.
And of course, one of the toughest parts of any split, especially when kids are involved. The sources touch on their daughter, right?
They do. And it's presented as, you know, the truly heartbreaking aspect. Their daughter, who was described as being the center of their world, she now becomes this permanent link between them. They have to learn how to navigate life apart, but still connected through her.
And the sources frame co-parenting as their next big challenge.
Yeah, their next significant challenge. And one they have to figure out, you know, without the cameras rolling, without scripts, edits, or retakes. Real life.
Which must be a huge adjustment.
Definitely.
And, you know, as you'd expect with any public breakup like this, the fans had opinions.
Oh, for sure. Reactions poured in. Some fans definitely blamed Cory, pointed to the cheating, the commitment issues.
While others
maybe pointed towards Taylor, suggesting maybe there was pressure from her side, that kind of thing.
But what's interesting is how the materials we looked at sort of push back on finding one single villain here.
Right. It suggested that sometimes there's no clear villain, just two people who couldn't stay aligned, no matter how much they might have wanted to or tried.
So positioning it more as incompatibility. Or just the sheer weight of everything that happened.
Yeah, more like incompatibility deepened by that weight of unresolved history, rather than just one person being solely at fault.
That perspective really ties back into what this whole deep dive seems to reveal, doesn't it? That this whole thing was a slow unraveling.
Exactly. Looking at everything we've discussed, all the pieces from the sources, it becomes really clear this wasn't some sudden scandal or an abrupt implosion.
No.
It was this gradual dismantling, a slow taking apart of something that, to the outside world, had looked so solid for so long.
And the truth of why they broke up, synthesizing it from these sources. It wasn't just the cheating or just waiting for a proposal or just the social media weirdness.
No, it was quite simply all of it.
All of it combined.
Yeah. It paints this picture of the relationship ending because of layer after layer of unmet needs, regrets, and moments they never healed from.
It wasn't one single event, but like the accumulated pressure over years.
Precisely, the cumulative effect of all those unresolved issues.
Yeah. And maybe that's why their story, you know, as presented in these sources, feels like more than just the usual celebrity gossip.
I think so too. It really mirrors themes that are just incredibly common in so many relationships, right? Whether you're famous or not.
Like what?
Well, the sources touch on these universal struggles. Like, love can be totally real, but sometimes life and just different desires get in the way.
Yeah.
That commitment can mean really different things to different people.
Yeah.
And that things like timing and trust and facing difficult truths, they just don't always line up perfectly for everyone.
So wrapping this up, what's the main takeaway from this deep dive? It really seems to be that Cory and Taylor's relationship didn't just suddenly end.
No, not at all. It ended through this complex, almost quiet process, a slow unraveling.
Caused by that combination of factors, the past betrayal that maybe never fully healed, those differing expectations about where things were headed,
Right.
and that quiet strain of feeling alone, even when they were technically still together.
Yeah. It's a really powerful reminder, I think, of how that public image can hide some deep personal struggles.
Definitely.
And how unresolved stuff, even things from years ago, can just keep chipping away at a relationship's foundation over time.
The sources kind of leave us with a really interesting question to think about, don't they?
They do. This idea of, will they ever find their way back to each other? Or, was this breakup always kind of inevitable? Was this how it was meant to end?
Yeah.
And it raises that thought, doesn't it? That sometimes the hardest goodbyes aren't the big, loud, dramatic ones after huge fights.
But the quiet ones.
Exactly. The ones that arrive quietly after years and years of trying to hold on to something that maybe deep down on some fundamental level might have already been gone for a while.
Definitely something to think about. As you consider, those themes of trust and commitment and communication, not just in their story, but maybe in relationships you see or even experience yourself.